Hello and good morning to everybody coming in from the United Kingdom, 11 a.m. or just a couple of minutes afterwards. Every day between Monday and Thursday, we're here with it's within your reach, total mind, fitness, well-being workout. What are you doing to make your life higher quality? What purposeful steps are you actually taking? What direction are you moving in? Are you moving in the direction that will increase your chances of a higher quality life? This is a question we need to ask ourselves when we wake up in the morning. Be grateful for what we have. Be grateful that we are now back in the world again. We've rebooted our life system. And now we have the day in front of us. Are we going to use this responsibly? Are we going to take responsibility for who we are and the life that we have to lead? You know, there's so many people out there, and it's very tempting to blame everybody and everything. It's not my fault, it's the government, it's the economy, it's my parents, it's my upbringing, it's my children, it's my friends, it's the people I hang out with, it's this neighborhood I live in. It's actually an endless list. And there is certain truths in all of these elements. We are molded by our learning experiences. So, of course, where we were born into is relevant and will influence us. What kind of neighborhood we were born and growing up into, what kind of economic lifestyle we were born into and brought up in, how our parents were and how they acted towards us, shapes our behavior. What kind of family life we have shapes our behavior. What kind of employment or not employment we have shapes our behavior. What kind of country we live in, what kind of economic status it has, whether there's a virus out there or no virus out there, it all shapes our behavior. Absolutely. There are certain influences in all of these circumstances and context. We do have our own responsibility of how we respond to that. What is our response ability? Do we have the ability to respond? Responsibility. How is our response going to take shape? Our response to the situation that we're in, our response to the context that we're in. That's what we're talking about today, and it's within your reach, a total mind fitness well-being workout. Please say hello in the comments. Let's see who's coming into the house today. Let's see who's joining us today. What is showing up in your life today? And how are you showing up in your life today? What is your life going to be about today? What kind of responsibility are you going to take over your life and how it plays out today? What part are you playing in your own life today? Put it in the comments. What part in your life are you taking part in actively today? How are you going to live by your own example today? You know, a lot of us have an idea of, well, if I didn't have this, I would behave this way. If this wasn't happening right now, this is what I would do. If. You know, when I left school, I actually left with very little qualifications to talk of. You know, and that was my responsibility. At the time, though, I was blaming everyone and their uncle. I was blaming my parents for putting too much pressure on me in other things, not necessarily in school. I put blame on the fact that it was a terrible school I was at. It was actually a very good school, but, you know, I didn't fit in. I didn't have the right friends. school was terrible to me. I'd had a really bad life. I'd been bullied a lot. You know, I had a girlfriend, and that was more important to me at the time. And there was a lot of things going on in my life. I can't study. I don't know. Maybe I've got a learning disability. Who knows? And my life and academics and studying and so on wasn't for me. And so when I left, I basically left with no school qualifications. I was blaming everybody. But really, if I was going to be honest and take responsibility, I had an agenda. And finishing school and then going off to university and going on a route like that didn't fit into my personal agenda. But instead of taking that responsibility, I blamed everybody, and I walked out of school championing the fact that I didn't have the right qualifications. I was trying to burn my bridges in retrospect. But I went on from there, and I was regretting it. And I was like, oh, why can't I go to university? I really want to have a university degree, and so on and so forth. It's easy to fall into that trap of the blame game. It's easy to fall into the trap to say, look, my circumstances have dictated to where I am now, and so I cannot have a future that I want. But what gets us to where we are today doesn't necessarily mean that that will get us to where we're going. If we're not going to change, we're going to get what we've always got. If we want something else, we need to change our behavior. It comes right down to that. And changing our behavior is our responsibility. Ours and only ours. We can ask for help. We can go and learn new skills. We can go and learn new information. We can get teachers. We can get friends around us. We can build that team. But at the end of the day, me, needs to do the work. I need to be responsible to show up in my own life and go the journey and walk the walk and do the work. And that's what it takes. And it's not easy. And yes, we need help sometimes, and maybe all the time. And we need to build that. We need to invest in our social circle. We need to invest in our family that we have around us. We need to invest in our friends. We need to invest in our mentors and our teachers and go out and get them. We need to go out and get our mentors. We need to look for them. We need to bring them into our lives. But we need to do it. We need to show up and be responsible in our own lives. We need to live by the example that we want to have our lives. Start living like that now. Don't wait until everything is perfect before you start. We need to start living our life the way it would be if everything was in place. Right? Within reason, of course. We don't want you to start overspending if you think you've got, millions of pounds in the bank. No, but live your life in that way, that qualitative way. Be kind, be honest, be accountable to yourself, first of all. To understand that you're living this life on a straight path with a full conscience, with full effort, showing up. Living is about doing. Yeah, we can do plenty thinking. We can do plenty sitting down. We can do plenty contemplating. And it's really important. But at the end of the day, we've got to get up and do what we need to do. We've got to do the right thing. We've got to do the thing that's useful. We've got to do the thing that works. We've got to do the thing that's responsible, whether it's for ourselves or responsibility for others. We've got to get out of bed in the morning and get on with our lives. That's what we need to do at the end of the day. Nobody will or can do that for us. And yeah, we're going to get lots of people helping us maybe. And the more that people help us, maybe less that we're willing to do. But at the end of the day, it's our life, and we need to show up in it and take responsibility for it. It sounds harsh, but it's the only way that can work. It's the only way that can work. We come into this life, we're born, we're babies, we've got hopefully good parents that are going to look after us and bring us and nourish us and nurture us. But we get to a point where there is a point in our development which needs that separation and needs that independence and interdependence with the communities that we live in, but we need that way of living that we are responsible. Now, we're responsible for ourselves, but we're also responsible for those around us, because we don't live in an island. We're not individuals that live in this world on our own. Being responsible for me doesn't mean only being responsible for me. I need to be responsible for me, but also for those around me, for those in my immediate family, for those in my friends, for my neighborhood, my community, my city, my country, the world. We need to have interdependent responsibility for each other in the world, between me and the world, not just between me and the people that populate this world, but responsibility for me and how I interact with the planet, with nature, with the elements. How do I protect and be responsible for the planet? How do I be responsible for not polluting in the sense of polluting in the literal sense of polluting the planet, but polluting the life I live by the language that I use? We can pollute our environments with polluting language that's going to cause pain, language that's going to cause anguish, abusive language, crude language. We have to be careful, very, very careful and responsible about how we speak. Are we being over judgmental? Are we being facetious? Are we being patronizing? Are we acting like a privileged so-and-so? We need to use our language very carefully and responsibly. We need to have responsible behavior. We need to bring kindness into our behavior and be responsible about being kind to ourselves, but being kind to others. We need to be able to stand up and let the pregnant woman sit down. Stand up and let the elderly person sit down. This is about interdependent responsibility. This is about being responsibility for those who are less privileged than us, being responsible for those who are less healthy than us. We need to bring this into our lives. If this is about raising the quality of our lives, this is what it's about. This is about, it's within your reach. It's about the T.R.I.U.M.P system. It's about raising the quality of your life. And the R in the behavior is responsibility. If we want to transform our behavior, we've been going through up until now all the letters of behavior and all the different parts of this transformation. And the R in behavior is about being responsible. It's about responsibility. It's about lifting the quality of our lives, about being responsible for ourselves and for others. So that's really important. So stick some comments in your life. How do you see responsibility? How do you see your showing up in your own life? How do you do that? Comments in the comment section, and we'll carry on in 1 second. So we're talking about the trauma to triumph system. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we go from this traumatic situation that we've been in lockdown over the last few weeks and raise the quality of our life so that we can go forward and go forth and build a life of quality for ourselves and for our family. And that's the trauma to triumph system. And it's all about transforming your behavior and your habits. And we've gone through in the last few episodes about behavior. What is the individual parts of behavior? And the first part is about behavioral goals, and we explained exactly what the behavioral goals are. What is it that can increase the quality of your life? What can increase the chances of you living a better quality life? What can you do today? What can you do right now that will increase that? And one of the things we can do is we can ask ourselves some questions. What can we start doing that will help us? Or what can we stop doing that will increase the chance of our living a higher quality life? What people can we bring into our lives? What people do we not need to have in our lives? What can we do differently in our lives that will increase the chance of it being of higher quality? And how do we treat ourselves and treat others? And that's really important that we start thinking about that and having these goals in our mind, even write them down. The E in behavior is about being engaged. It's about reaching a goal by taking step after step after step, right? And these steps are in the direction of doing what matters, what's important to you. So decide what's important to you in your life. Is adventure important? Is caring important? Is curiosity important? Is learning important? Is being passionate important? Whatever it is in your life that's important to you and how you want to live your life in all the different tasks and that we have the task of being a parent, being a friend, of being a child, of being a brother or a sister, or being a neighbor, or being an employee or employer. There's many different tasks we have, different domains in our life. So we ask ourselves, what in each of these domains matters to me, and how I want to enact out these tasks, and how I want to live my life. And we ask ourselves, what matters? What's important in the way I want to live? And this is all about increasing the quality of our lives. So what way can I live and act out my daily tasks that will increase the quality of my life? And then we ask ourselves, what's the next step? What actual physical step? What can I actually do? Even if it's little, even if it's while I'm confined in my own house, what can I do? What step can I take? Even if it's sending a text to a friend, asking them how they are, that will increase the quality of my life. And the H is all about being holistic. It's about addressing the different parts of us, which is not just the body, but important that we address the body, that we have the right nutrition, the right amount of sleep, the right amount of movement and exercise. That's really important, but it's also important to address the mind and to have a fitness of mind. And that's what we're doing here every morning in the Total Mind Fitness Wellbeing Workout. We're getting our mind fit. We're responding to our thoughts in a particular way. We're managing to put them on these clouds and just watching them go by. We're not fighting our thoughts. We're not wrestling with our thoughts. We're not running away from our thoughts. We are learning to be with our thoughts, because our thoughts and our feelings and emotions can hijack us and pull us all over the place. And then we feel that our life is in turmoil and we become overwhelmed. But we're learning here every morning to manage our thoughts and feelings. And these thoughts and feelings reflect in our bodies and reflect in sensations that we have in our bodies, sometimes extremely painful and uncomfortable. And we're learning to manage that here, right here, every morning on the It's Within Your Reach Total Mind Fitness Wellbeing Workout. But that's not enough either. We need to address our soul. We need to address our purpose and our meaning for it with our lives. This is really important, that we mix together our physical being, our mental being, and our spiritual being, and get our fitness with all of these and become fit in all of these, so that we are spiritual beings, physical beings, and emotional, mental well-being. That's really important if we're going to lift the quality of our life. And that's the H, and that's the H in behavior. And the A in behavior is about being aware of the moment, of stopping and taking a breath. Breathe in through the nose, hold it, and out as if you're blowing the candle for 5. Just stop and become aware. Breathe in, fill that belly, hold it, and blow as if you're blowing out a candle with your mouth. Breathing in again. Hold it. And out through your mouth. Becoming aware of what we see. Becoming aware of what we hear. Becoming aware of what we feel. Becoming aware of what we smell. Becoming aware of what we taste. Using our 5 senses to become aware of our life on the outside of our skin. And then just taking those few moments to become aware of what's happening inside our skin. Become aware of our thoughts, even if they're unpleasant. Becoming aware of our body sensations, even if they're unpleasant. We can do a quick scan from the top of our head, just noticing what sensations are showing up in our bodies as we pass over our face, over our neck and shoulders. Might feel a little bit of tension there. Not to moan and groan and to judge it, just to experience it, just to notice and acknowledge that it's there, become aware of it. As we move down our chest and upper back, our whole torso, our mid-torso, middle back, rib cage, going down to our abdomen and lower back. What do you feel? What sensations are there? Our shoulders going down our arms, from our shoulders to our elbows. What are you feeling in your arms? You might be feeling pain. You might be feeling stiffness. You might be feeling wonderful. What sensations are you having in your body? As you move from your elbows to your wrists, and your wrists over your hands and palms, and fingers to your fingertips, over your knuckles. Wiggle your fingers even. Start wiggling them with me. Feeling that control. If you can, wiggle your fingers. Then from your waist area down your both legs, your hips, your thighs. What senses, what's showing up there? Not to judge it, not to get rid of it, not to run away from it, not to get upset about it. Just be with it, right with me. Just be willing to experience it for what it is. Without putting names on it, without giving it labels at the moment, just experience what it is. Just sit with it with me right now and experience it. As we move down towards our knees, and down towards our shins and calves, down towards our ankles, and out through our feet, through the floor. And that slowing down, that becoming aware of our lives inside and out, will settle our brain, will settle our bodies, we'll be able to experience what's actually going on with us, and the message that our body's trying to give us will be heard loud and clear by us, and our body and mind will realize they don't need to turn up the volume in that anymore. So the V is about our values, about what matters in our life, in the big, in the big picture. How do we want to live out our day? How do we want to live out our week? How do we want to live out our month and our year and our years and our decades? What do you want your life to stand for? And to have these thoughts. What do we want our life to stand for? How do we want to live it? How do we want to actually enact our life towards ourselves, towards other people, towards the world? What matters? What do you want your life to be about? What purpose, what meaning is your life about? And it doesn't have to be massive. Oh, I don't know what my life's about, what the meaning is, what the purpose is. Well, let's think about that. When you're washing the dishes, Why are you washing dishes? Well, I've got to have clean dishes. Okay. And why are you washing them? There's more than just your cup there. Why are you washing other people's cups? Well, otherwise there'll be a big mess. Well, hold on a second. Maybe you're also washing other people's cups because you care about them. You care about them enough to wash up their cups and plates and knives and forks. Because that's important. And what's important for you is to have that caring self, because caring for others is important. Washing up and having a tidy kitchen and a clean kitchen, and maybe you're, hoovering the floor and doing things that seem very mundane. But if we open them up and look at the value underneath them, we can find that they are full of value of taking care of the home, of making sure the place is hygienic, making sure the place is healthy and happy and safe for the people that are living in it. It's not just about hoovering the floor. It's not just about washing the dishes. It's about the meaning and purpose behind it. And yeah, that sounds a bit strange to us sometimes because we poo-poo that off a lot of the time. Oh, don't come with all this woo-woo stuff. All I'm doing is doing dishes. Well, no, really, no. There is something underneath that. There's something underneath that when you're hoovering the floor, and when you're giving your kids a bath, or when you're dressing them, or whether you're cooking food for them and people in your family. It's not just about, making bread. Okay, so making bread, people have been making bread for thousands of years. It's easy to do. You just put dough and water together, you leave it for a bit in the sun or in your oven, and you've got bread. I mean, it's not really that difficult, is it? But when my neighbor makes her bread, she takes a bit off and makes a loaf of bread for me, and places it on my doorstep every week. So it's more than just the bread, isn't it? I mean, I can go out and buy myself a loaf of bread. It's not the most expensive thing in the world. So it's not about that little loaf of bread that she gives me every week. It's about the meaning and purpose. And she was making it, and she was thinking about me. And she was saying, you know what? I want to give that guy next door a loaf of bread. Make him feel good. Make him feel that somebody's thinking about him. Make him feel that, realize that next door neighbor is not just another person living next door, but there's something of value there, something that matters, that you're living next door to me. And I want to show that in these very, very distressing times by baking a loaf of bread and giving it to you. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that really raises the quality of my life, quality of their life. What is the value in your life? What matters? What's the purpose of even these mundane tasks? And then the I is about integrity. It's about honesty. It's about being authentic. It's about opening up and saying, this is who I am. Right? And it's really important that integrity that we have, we can express it. And we have consistency in our actions. We have honesty. We have expectations of ourselves and how we want to live and how we want to. Yes, of course, it's very vulnerable. It's vulnerable to open up and be honest with myself and others. Right? So, that is what integrity is all about. And then we have the O. And the O is about opening up. It's about being willing to experience our own lives. It's about being willing, Lots of things happen. Now there's coronavirus. Now we can't go out. Yes, now we can go out in some places. And we'll go out, we will have a certain amount of fear and trepidation and not know exactly how we're supposed to behave. Do we have a mask? Do we not have a mask? These are things on the outside. We have things on the inside. We have that emotional roller coaster going up and down all the time inside us. Sometimes we're feeling very anxious. Sometimes we're feeling calm, and sometimes we're joyous, and sometimes we're sad. Oh my goodness, the amount of rhythm and emotions that can go through somebody, never mind in a whole day, but even within the hour or 2 hours. We can have extreme joy, oh, wonderful news. And that second it can turn into sadness because we don't have the loved ones that we usually have with us to celebrate with us. Okay, so I've just graduated from university. That's wonderful. Oh my goodness, I've just graduated. But I don't have a graduation ceremony this year. That quick, our emotions can change. So we need to be open to this. If we're not going to be able to ride that wave of emotion, we're going to be hijacked all over the place. So we need to learn to be open and ride the waves of emotion. It's really important if we don't want to be hijacked and overwhelmed by our own emotions. And we spoke about yesterday, about being useful, about having behaviors that work, that we do things that are useful for us. If we find out the way we're behaving is not useful, and it's not really working, then maybe it's time to consider changing it. I used to smoke so many cigarettes every day. And then one day I came and said, is this really being useful for me? Is this a useful behavior? Is it working for me when I'm coughing all over the place all the time? When I really can't feel I'm breathing properly? When I wake up in the morning and it's like I've been choking all night? That's really working for me, right? This is really useful. Yeah, of course, when I got upset, when I got nervous, and when I got, anxious or whatever, I'd pull out a cigarette, and for that few seconds, I felt better. There's no doubt about that. But is that useful in the long term? Is that really working out for me? Well, the answer was no for me. So I put that down, that behavior, and I changed it. And I went on to build behaviors in my life that were more useful for me and that worked for me. And that's really important that we start learning how to do that. We start being really honest with ourselves and say, is the way I'm acting useful for me and the people around me and the loved ones around me and my family and friends and the organizations that I belong to, my community of whatever it is? Is the way I behave useful and working for all this systems that I belong to? Once we become, we ask those questions, then we can come to an honest answer and say, well, maybe not. And so maybe it's time to transform my behavior and my habits. And that brings us to today, where we're talking about the R. The R is about responsibility. Responsibility in my behavior, about having accountability for my behavior. To be able to stand up and say, yeah, this is because of what I've been doing. Yeah, I've got this now, and I've found myself here in my life because of the way I've been behaving. I'm accountable for that. I need to show up in my own life. I need to have courage. Yeah, we need to have, being responsible is about having the courage, right? It's about having the courage to show up and say, yeah, this is because of me, right? But it's also, the great things that happen in our life, right? We're also very prone to discount the great things. Oh, that's nothing to do with me. That's just coincidence that, this happened, that great thing happened to me. Oh, the exams must have been really easy this year if I passed them. Oh, if I got into this club, the standards must have dropped terribly. We discount our own, good behavior, our own healthy behavior. No, that's also take responsibility for that. Also take responsibility for the contributions you make to yourself and to make to others. That's really important too. That's also part of responsibility. But responsibility is also doing what's right, doing what's useful, doing what works, doing what the right thing is, about contributing to yourself and society, by living by example, by saying, look, if I want a society like this, if I want a group like this, if I want a family that's like this, then I have to start. It starts with me. And I have to live by that example. Now, it's possible that not everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon that you're living in, but you are. That's your example. That's your modeling. That's your teaching in this life. And it doesn't matter whether, you're going to get 1,000 likes because of it, or you're not going to get any likes because of it. If you feel that you're doing the right thing, that you're showing up and you're being accountable for your behavior, and you're willing to take responsibility for that, then that's the behavior. That's what you should do. And that's really important. And we have to be responsible about helping other people. Some people are less fortunate than us. They're less privileged than us, no matter what. Even we're taught in our ancient traditions that even if you're a beggar, even if you're poor, you should still give charity. If you get that, you're begging and you get your 50 quid or whatever it is that you're going to get, you should be giving charity still. You should still have that responsibility to contribute to your community and to others and to help others. There's always going to be somebody less fortunate than you, less privileged than you. Okay, so that's really important to raise the quality of your life, that you take that responsibility and you do what's right in your life. But it takes courage and it takes fairness. And sometimes life is not fair. Yeah, sometimes we have this thing in our mind that we compare our lives to, so many people around us. But if we have social media now and we have, all sorts of electronic media, that circle of who's around us is massive. It's worldwide. We find we start comparing ourselves to people in other countries and other continents and other hemispheres of the planet. We start saying, wow, if they're living like this, why am I not living like this? If they're getting this, why am I not getting this? Look at what happens there, and here we don't get that. We start to widen the circle of what we're comparing with. But what about our responsibility? What about my responsibility in showing up in my own life? And that's the R in behavior. And so, put in comments or write to me and, give me your ideas of what it's like to show up in your own life. It's not easy. Sometimes there's a lot of difficulties. And, these difficulties need to be ironed out at the end of the day. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. I'm transforming behaviors and habits in the big T in the T.R.I.U.M.P system. And we'll be going on now to the habits side of our life. And then we'll be opening that up and seeing how we can change that. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining me. See you at 11 a.m. Monday to Thursday every morning. Take care.